Ruslan.
I guess I just wanted to get you to expound more. I know that we had private Zoom call a while back. It wasn't really put on YouTube, but I just want to let you know that what we talked about when it was as it relates to vulnerability and intimacy, the differences of that proved to be really fruitful in my life, man.
Oh,
So
wow.
I just wanted to,
That's so
and
cool,
I mean,
man.
I like walk with that one now. Like there's a big difference between vulnerability and intimacy. What do you see the difference of as it relates to vulnerability and intimacy? And what are some of the advantages of it? And then what are some of the disadvantages and what are some of the hindrances to it as it relates to fellowship, as fellowship going back and forth between men, small groups, things like that?
The conversation we had offline was really cool because we were talking about how to connect and build relationships if you have a past and which parts of your past to share and that kind of stuff. And my wife, I don't know if I told you that when we talked, Rich, but my wife hit me to that idea that there's a difference between vulnerability and intimacy. And the big difference is that vulnerability is being transparent and being vulnerable with your life, being honest, right? Intimacy is telling people what you're going through right here in the moment. So I'm very vulnerable on this YouTube channel. I talk about a lot of stuff. I talk about me being a survivor of sexual assault as a kid. I talk about all kinds of different, me living with my mom for the first year of marriage, like just rock bottom situations that are embarrassing to talk about, but I think there's freedom in me owning it, and then I know it relates to somebody else that was just in here a couple weeks ago that was like, yo, I'm living with my mom and my wife and it's a mess, and I could relate to that by sharing something that vulnerable, even though I'm not proud of it. Now, intimacy would be stuff that I'm going through right now in the moment. Intimacy would be like, what am I talking about in therapy? You guys don't need to know what I'm learning in therapy, right? So there's certain things that are intimate to just me. What's going on in my personal life right now. You guys don't need to know necessarily what's going on right now. Now, when I come out of something, I tend to share it and be vulnerable and using it as a teaching example, right? Something that God may be dealing with me on right now, something that God may be showing to me through scripture that it is not for everybody. It's just for me, right? So I try to be very intentional, Rich, that everything I'm gleaning from the word, everything I'm getting from prayer, I don't just come on here and spit it out, because then it doesn't actually take time to take seed and take root in my heart. So I try to not just like, oh, I was reading the Bible today and God showed me this. You won't ever really see me do videos like that. If you really pay attention to my content, I talk about 5 or 6 different things, reacting and connecting to different events. I'm going back to the same things I've been teaching for 10, 15 years, right? So if God shows me something new, I'm not necessarily going to go on here and just show it and just share it right in the moment. I want it to take root. So like the books I'm reading right now, I don't share with you guys. I'm going through an incredible book right now that's like life-changing, and I might even bring the author on. You guys don't need to know about that because that's intimately happening in my life right now. The issue with even the word intimacy is our society and our culture has equated the word intimacy with sex. You know what I mean? So when I'm talking about being intimate with God, people kind of like get confused by that. When I talk about being intimate with my prayer life, when I'm talking about something intimate in therapy, that's not the same as sex. I'm not talking about sex. Me and my wife's intimacy doesn't always equate to sex, even though as men, we just want everything to be about sex, right? When someone is in a new church, when someone is in a new community, when someone makes a new friend, one of the most troubling things you could do is tell that person right what you're thinking, right what you're feeling, right in the moment, and just throw up on that person. Because now you're being intimate and you're probably not maintaining healthy boundaries, right? If you ever meet people and you just feel like that person's your best friend, you've known them for 5 minutes and you've told them your deepest, darkest struggle in the moment. If I meet you and I'm being transparent about, yeah, man, like this is what happened to me. Now, I may not tell somebody that I was a survivor of sexual abuse the first interaction. I'm not probably going to tell them that the first or second interaction, right? But though that would be the difference. So generally speaking, there has to be something you're maintaining boundaries with that you're going through right now, which I would say is more intimate, and then there's vulnerability. So the intimate parts of my life are not for YouTube. The intimate parts of my life aren't even for all my friends. They're probably for like 5 or 6 really close friends, my wife, and that's it. And my therapist, right? And that's it. You know, everybody doesn't need to know everything that's going on. And by the way, like I'm not going through any kind of like moral breakdown. I'm not like in sin. I got this like crazy thing over here. I'm just talking about in my sanctification process today isn't for the world. necessarily. My sanctification process is for what I'm at. Sanctification is even a weird word to say it, but what God is showing me right now in this season, it would be more intimate. I don't really share that with people all the time.
Just an added part to that question. So how is it and when do you know when something's come to fruition? Like you said, you don't share things until they've come to full seed, right? Until they've come to full fruit, till you realize, like, hey, this is what I went through, and this is what I learned from it. And I think so. Like, when do you know that time? And the only time I've seen you where it differs is obviously in your music. Like, if you go back to your music, like, because your music sometimes is very intimate, right? Without even meaning to something. Just some of the bars right there are just so intricate and just intimate in those things you're going through. So I guess it goes back to my second question is, when do you know when something's come to a full fruit where it's like, okay, hey, this is what I learned from it, and this is what can benefit somebody out of it?
I don't know when. For example, I'm going through Luke on the channel. So there's a playlist of like a verse by verse Bible study through Luke. That's something that I wanted to do because I don't want everything to be current events. I do want to actually like work on just teaching the scriptures. Luke chapter 4, had I taught it the way I read it the first time, it would have been the typical, like, a prophet is without honor in his hometown. Jesus was without honor in his hometown. The people who were with him didn't see him. Hey, just know that people aren't going to always get what God is doing in your life. They're not going to know how special. That would have been mad generic and mad narcissist. Like, I see myself in the scriptures. But because I sat on that chapter for like 2 months, I sat on that Bible study for 2 months. And then finally it was like, oh no, that's actually not the most beneficial way to teach it to folks who are here, and it came out totally different. I still made that point, but it was such a secondary point. Had I not waited, Rich, it would have been trash. Like, it would have just been like blah, right? If I'm reading a book, I try to finish the book before I go on here and talk about a book, right? So if I just start a book, I don't be like, guys, I'm reading this new book, it's incredible. I finish the book and then I'll come on and I'll highlight who I'm talking about. And you're right that sometimes with something about music does allow you to be more vulnerable, but that's because music takes longer to come out. So if I write something today, it's not gonna come out for 4 or 5 weeks, right? So if I'm talking about like my mom getting hip surgery, like my mom got hip surgery in October and in February, like we're in May and people are just now hearing about that, right? So the timing of it is a little different with music that I think I feel more free. I mean, there's also a lot of music that doesn't come out. Like, so I'm trying to be vulnerable, but there's some stuff that just doesn't really come out. Like, I got a song about my wife and I talk about having a second child, and like, the song was before she was pregnant, and I'm still trying to figure out if I'm gonna put that out because it's a very like personal record, but we've since had a second child, right? Like it's since came to fruition. So that's a good tactic, by the way, for you guys that are looking for content or just healthy community. That boundary between vulnerable and intimate will take a lot of us further, knowing the difference between what's vulnerable and what's intimate. Rich, thank you so much, man.
Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan.
Yes. I saw my mama smile through the silhouette. Sunshine and all. But she don't know that I still feel like we ain't made it yet. No, I ain't lying at all. I remember walking back from grocery